Redford was one of those schools that closed that threw me off because it's like they rebuilt the football facility and everything. It was like
Yeah,
it was a lot of capital investment put
no
into
doubt,
Redford,
no doubt,
and then they were like, "We closing Redford." I was like, "Wow, that's
no doubt,
surprising."
no doubt. Very surprising, right?
And
So,
it's also as my bad. I'm cutting you off a little
no, it's
further.
all
Like Redford, unlike a lot of the other schools, is one of the few schools in like that footprint. Like the closest other school is a long way from
long
Redford.
way.
Like
Absolutely.
it's not, you getting the kids from Brightmoor, you getting the kids from, or as they say, the Mo. You getting the kids from the Mo. You getting the kids
Hmm.
from like basically. If you're not gonna go to Redford, it's like you, I guess, got to go to Henry Ford or McKenzie, and depending upon where you live,
A long way.
that's a
Right.
big distance to travel because you may not get into CMA,
Right, right.
but
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And that was the befuddling part about like Redford closing. So I graduated in 1997. And so the year after I graduate, they poured like $1 million, I want to
yeah,
say, into the football field. And so, which they constructed wrongly and they had to put more money into it to fix it.
yeah.
But yeah, new scoreboard, new field, new turf, new
He was
stands.
like, I ain't play on this.
Exactly. Like we was playing in gravel. I was, it was broken glass on the field and everything.
Exactly.
But yeah, they poured a lot of money into it. And another thing, right? Redford was the second biggest high school in the city next to Cass.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I graduated with 600 seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty big school in terms of student enrollment, but then also too spatially, it was a big
Yeah.
school. We had a huge Votech wing
Mm-hmm.
where we would do cosmetology, all the automotive mechanics, all of these type of things. I mean, so it was a good school, and they poured money into it, and they closed it. I'm of the mindset that these type of developments aren't haphazard, right? They just don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
They are planned years in advance, and so the powers that be, investors, along with the development industrial complex, and that's including our public economic development agencies like the DEGC, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. They're sitting back in rooms and they have already pinpointed areas, right? This area is going to look like this. And these are the suitors. And they actively go out and they seek capital investment,
Mm-hmm.
right, to make these things happen. And so I firmly believe that they had a gentrification model, right, for
Community.
that particular community because right so yeah it's a real interesting kind of spatial dynamic here, right, because yeah it's adjacent to Brightmoor, but it's also adjacent to Old Retford,
Yeah.
and it's also adjacent to Rosedale.
Yeah.
And so there are and so if you think about kind of the gentrifying like cultural mindset, very hipsterish, right? They're looking for a nitty gritty area, but one that speaks to them in terms of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so Old Retford kind of rings that, Brightmoor rings that as well because of the low levels of density, right? You could just set up shop and
Yeah.
then also too as an urban agricultural kind of model there, like controlled by white folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it provides the like a sense of safety for them. And so I think they looked at these kind of these socio-spatial dynamics. Say, hey, put this thing here, and it's a great investment for a particular investor. And so that's what happened.
Yeah, it blew my mind seeing Redford close. Like, and I'm not saying I didn't want to see any of the schools close. I graduated 2001, and like people can't, and they do these goofy things like where it'll be like an academy inside the school. It was about 28 different buildings across the country, I mean across the city, that were high schools when I graduated. You too. Like
Yeah.
some of the high schools closing, it's like, yeah, a kid that go to Murray Wright could probably go to Northwestern.
Yeah,
I
no
know
doubt.
the
Some things
legacy
made sense,
that
right.
may bother you. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
A kid that go to Cooley may be able to go to Mumford or McKenzie.
McKenzie,
Like
that's
that's
right.
close enough.
That's right.
But like, yeah, that one closing blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, where would the kid from Redford? It's like because it's not another like it basically by closing that and then you have man, I forget, and I used to be Detroit Community School. Like that became kind of like the only school for the students in that area, and then that's still like on the other side of That's on like the other side, closer to Brightmoor. And then you also have to keep this in mind, like when you're a high schooler. And I know this sounds out of this world to a lot of older people, but when you cross neighborhoods, that can get dangerous for you when you're a high schooler.
No doubt.
So the amount of neighborhoods you crossing to get, if you live, as you say, from like Rosedale Park to get to Henry Ford, it's a lot of neighborhoods.
A lot of neighborhoods.
A lot of neighborhoods where like that bus ride down 8 Mile, and you gonna have to time. It's like, I may want to miss this one.
Yeah, you have
They
to
wanna wait on this
strategize
one.
for sure.
Yeah, you got to think on your feet because it's like I don't want no static because Sconies is live over here. You know what I'm saying? Like I do not need no.
No, but you know what? That's exactly what happened, right? Like you said, when you think about where Redford is positioned, you're right, Grand River, 6 Mile, that area. When you look at 6 Mile, the kids south of 6 Mile, right, go south. There's no other school there, right, occupying that area. So you get rid of that. All of the kids south of 6 Mile right there, they're going to have to, go to Henry Ford?
Possibly go to Cody, which is other neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Now you dealing with the Joy Road kids.
Exactly.
Because as far as I always tell people, as much as I live over on this side and I recognize Joy Road does come to Livernois and stuff. When I hear Joy Road, I really think Exit 9. And that's an interesting community within itself. And then when you're a kid, that is a community that, yeah, you're right. If you're right there.
Exactly. And so now you find yourself in, right, you lived in a neighborhood, and it's not by no means homogeneous, like, we all get along.
Yeah.
But there's a certain type of regional, there's a certain type of regional camaraderie, like, we from this area. And so now cats that used to go to Redford, and they were from 6 Mile, and they was from Finkel and so forth, right, and they clicked up at Redford and understood kind of the regional divisions, and how that manifested in a school like Henry Ford. And you got to remember, Henry Ford and Redford were mortal enemies, right? Like Mortal Kombat, like they were, right, the beef was real. And so now, right, the students who had traditionally went to Redford, now they had to go to, like you said, either Cody, or they had to go to Henry Ford, and beef broke out. Beef definitely broke out, because I remember coming back home from college in 98 and 99, and right, so after Redford closed, and right, looking at so I had a cousin who went to Henry Ford, and there was some gunplay at Henry Ford, and so when I got to him, I'm like, what the fuck going on? And basically he was saying, it was some cats from, you know what I'm saying, Finkel, and this 7 Mile, you know what I'm saying, the 7 Mile Finkel beef, you know what I'm saying, and so it was definitely real, but those are the kind of the repercussions of public disinvestment and the closing of institutions that the powers that be don't take into consideration, because they don't care and they don't have to deal with the real dynamics. That's the same thing with Cabrini Green, right, and the projects in Chicago, right? They tore down these institutions. Not that they shouldn't have been tore down. There was some problems with that, absolutely, but to have no game plan and not to kind of predict and foresee the kind of social conflict that would emerge, right, from the dissolving, right, of those long institutions, and kind of the reverberating impacts on community.
And it's because like it seems like definitely some nonsensical tribalism. Yes, it is that, but that doesn't change the fact that when you on the Dexter bus and you going past these kids in Central, and I'm a Northwestern kid, it don't change the fact that it's going to be possibly an exchange just because.
You
know what I'm saying? Like,
because you ain't from the hood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you have to think through, I often tell people, growing up over here in this neighborhood, and leaving, getting kicked out of King, and picking a school, it's like, okay, I'd rather pick Northwestern, because it's like, now that my family lives on this side of Dexter, I can't spend my whole day hanging around people from 12th Street and Linwood and then go back home walking past all these kids from Dexter.
That's right.
It's probably not going to be a safe thing.
That's right.
So it's like, let's go to Northwestern, further up the way, where I'm a little more unknown, and I just know a couple people, and I just know all these Dexter people. So it's like, I know my associations here. It's not feathered. And and this dynamic plays out with kids, but it's just real, as you say, like these social things.
Absolutely.
And that was a school that still is shockingly close. And even seeing that Meijer now, it's just like, like the way history is written, it's like this is just so unique of what was here and all the investment put in. And that's the other shocking thing. It was a lot of money put into Redford before it's just like we not opening Redford again.
You know what's a crazy thing too? We look at the process of like hyper austerity, right, and public disinvestment that was happening before the bankruptcy, but certainly accelerated because of it. And at the same time, you get this austerity, like, yo, we ain't got enough money for libraries and schools and shit, but we got enough money to hand over, right, development dollars to, Dan Gilbert, the Illages, so forth, right? This process of reindustrialization, right, and so the Meijers up there, right? They got a brownfield, right, and so they got tax incentives, so they got money too. They got public dollars to develop that thing, and so it's really crazy the way in which you look at some of these developments and they've taken artifacts, right, from that history, from our history, right, fortified Black communities or remnants of it, right, and appropriated them in certain type of ways to give them the forward-facing appearance of community, right? So this is what they did to Redford. We used to have this big plaque. Right, in the school next to the office, and it said Redford Huskies and the home of the Huskies. They took that plaque and mounted it right in front of
The Meijer.
the Meijer. So you can go right there. You can go right there and shop at the Meijer and see our high school home of the Husky plaque. But they did the same thing with Kettering too. They took the Kettering K and put it.
No, they put it on the other side.